Welcome to StaalX Construction and Steel Podcast. Episode 22, Building a Fortress in an Empty Castle, the Trade Barrier Paradox. Big news from StaalX. StaalX Next is launching soon. The invitation-only steel marketplace where you can sell both prime and secondary materials. Reach new buyers, move excess inventory, and stay in control, even anonymously. StaalX Next, the future of steel trading. Now, let's get into the market.
When you drive past a massive construction site right now, it's really easy to assume the industry is just swimming in cash and smooth sailing.
Oh, absolutely. On the surface, the illusion is incredibly convincing. Megaprojects are booming.
Right. And that's actually our mission for today's deep dive. We're pulling data from Construct Connect, Builder Magazine, Zonda, and some recent global trade show dispatches to figure out why this historic construction boom is quietly turning into a supply chain nightmare.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating disconnect because contractors are currently reporting, really high confidence and elevated backlogs.
Yeah, the Construct Connect data is staggering. Megaprojects over $1 billion are up 500% year to date, and non-residential starts are up 80%.
Right, which is largely driven by, $35.6 billion in data centers alone?
Exactly. Plus another $32 billion in other non-residential sectors.
Right. But if you look under the hood at the materials market, a massive supply and cost squeeze is quietly building right underneath them.
Because, you can't build a massive data center out of sheer optimism, right? You need physical material.
Exactly. And the cost to manufacture and transport those materials is suddenly surging. If you look at the Builder Magazine data, March construction input prices jumped 2.2%.
And that's primarily fueled by the oil spike, right? The 20.2% spike in crude petroleum linked to the Iran conflict.
Yeah, exactly. It's an oil-driven price shock. So we are now looking at an additional 5 to 8% price increase for building products coming down the pipeline.
Wow. It's like a hidden toll booth on the entire supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
So if elevated oil prices persist, do builders just eat the cost, or does it actively kill these mega projects?
Well, Zonda's analysis suggests building product volumes could contract by 200 to 600 basis points. So no, builders won't just eat the cost.
They pivot, right.
Right. They pivot to product substitution. They'll swap out expensive finishes or fixtures for cheaper alternatives wherever they can.
But see, substitution works for some materials, but you hit a brick wall when it comes to the skeleton of the building.
Yeah.
You can't easily swap out foundational steel.
No, you can't. Which brings us to the core constraint we're seeing right now. Wire rod.
Right.
You literally cannot build without it. Yet the U.S. market for it is facing this bizarrely artificial policy-driven scarcity.
And there's a massive irony here, because our sources highlighted that at the Dusseldorf trade show, there are hundreds of global wire rod producers eager to sell.
Oh yeah, global supply is abundant.
But they're completely locked out of the U.S. market.
Right, because the U.S. has built this absolute fortress of trade barriers. We're talking decades of anti-dumping and countervailing duties.
And the most restrictive tool is that all others category, right?
Yep.
How does that actually work mechanically?
So it acts like a guilty until proven innocent tax. If a new international mill hasn't spent millions on lawyers to get individually investigated by the U.S. government, they are slapped with a prohibitive default tariff rate.
Wow. So it just makes it financially impossible for them to compete.
Exactly. It blocks new global mills from ever entering the market. And these duties rarely expire.
Right, like the sunset review process. Didn't they just renew 20-year-old duties on Brazilian rod?
They did. And there's a recent aggressive investigation into Algerian rod, too. Even though, get this, Algeria hasn't shipped a single pound to the U.S. since June 2025.
Wait, really? So we are protecting domestic producers from a ghost threat while actively strangling the downstream buyers who desperately need steel?
Precisely. And it's worse because relying on domestic supply is incredibly risky right now. Buyers are facing what the industry calls a brutal summer squeeze.
Yes, the outages.
Yeah. 2 major domestic rod mills are currently suffering significant production outages.
So the protective fortress is actually trapping buyers inside with a failing supply chain. What is the backup plan?
There really isn't an easy one. They have to gamble. They either bet on an unpredictable domestic supply, or they try to lock in expensive August or September imports from the only viable options left.
Which are Vietnam and Malaysia.
Right. But even those imports are getting crushed by climbing ocean freight rates.
So just to distill the core tension here, the U.S. is racing forward on massive construction demand, but running headfirst into an inflation and supply chain wall.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
It really makes you wonder,
Mhm.
if intense domestic protectionism eventually shrinks the downstream wire industries to nothing, are we just building a fortress to protect an empty castle? Something for you to chew on next time you drive past a massive construction site.
Thank you for listening. Explore more at www.staalx.com.